All right, we had a little flip of the screen there by accident. Welcome everyone to HogvilleNET YouTube Live, in-game and post-game. Man, the Arkansas Razorbacks started this game blazing hot at 16th ranked Alabama. The Hogs up 60-56. 7:47 left in this game. This is a balanced attack from Arkansas. Really good offense in the first half for most of the first half, and good defense for most of the first half. You know, Bama closed on a run. Sears got going. Elite score. We know Battle's been elite score as of late. These two guys are going back and forth a little bit. But again, Arkansas's got some balance. Already three players in double figure scoring. Battle leading the way with 14 points. Not a great shooting night, but he has gotten to the free throw line for 7 of 7. We know he's been getting a lot of free throws. Not on pace to get to the line as many times as he has coming into this game. I felt like maybe he could have been at the line a few more times. The first half officials didn't call a lot of fouls on Bama. Arkansas never got into the 1-and-1 bonus. Second half, more fouls whistled on Bama in the early going. Arkansas got in the 1-and-1 with about 13 plus minutes to go. And so Sears at the line. Arkansas has been a much better free throw shooting team today. The last I wrote it down, Arkansas was 15 of 17 at the line, including 9 of 9 in the second half. Bama was 10 of 14 at the line in the first half, and they've had a lot of trips the Tide have today of just 1 of 2 at the free throw line. Sears again, 1 of 2. That's back-to-back trips for him going 1 of 2. So the Tide have not been nearly as good. Wow. Okay, so Makai Mitchell just got Tremont Mark. Misses a mid-range jumper. Makai Mitchell with the offensive rebound and putback. And the Hogs lead is 5, 62-57. So Sears just, we see a miss here. Sears, who's streaky. I mean, he got going again. I said late in the first half, hit a couple of threes. Really good reads in two-man game and where he was moving and actually altering his path. Just off reading where the defender was. Very savvy offensive player. Reminds me a lot of Jalen Brunson, NBA All-Star with the New York Knicks, and the way that he plays an undersized guard that can beat bigger players just because of his movement. Understanding Makai Mitchell, low post, takes Grant Nelson, who has 4 fouls, takes him to work down low. Makai finishes Arkansas's leads back up to 7, 64-57. Bama got within 2 in this half after Arkansas had, Arkansas led by as many points in the first half. Bama closed within 6 at halftime, and then got all the way within 2. Arkansas built the lead back up to 10, and then Bama's been working its way back in. Grant Nelson just scored for Bama, 64-59 with 6 minutes, just a little over 6 minutes left. So this is a game where if Arkansas wins, by the way, the Hogs can finish with a winning record overall. Would be 16-15. Keep talking about Eric Musselman's never had a losing overall record in college, but that actually goes back to his professional coaching days in most of his career. And so now Bama scored the last 4 points in this game, so it's 64-61 with about 5.5 minutes to go. And so there's been another turnover here for the Hogs. High turnover game for both teams, but it's starting to favor Bama. So now it's a 6-0 run for the Tide. Another score. This one in transition. Arkansas really poor job after the turnover because it wasn't one of those quick drives up there. It wasn't a quick push after the turnover. It was a delayed one. Arkansas's defenders were back and just gave up a wide open lane. So it's down to a 1-point advantage, 64-63. This is a game where I thought the pace would favor Bama the way Arkansas was playing, but Arkansas attacked the paint, really got a big advantage in points off turnovers early, even though both teams were turned over. Arkansas had the advantage in points off turnovers. Arkansas had a big advantage points in the paint, 1.22-8. It's almost even now. The rebounding battle's been fairly even. Arkansas still, I think, up a little bit slightly in points off turnovers. Nate Oates beside himself, but at 64-63 with 5 minutes left. Again, if Arkansas wins, another turnover for the Hogs on the inbounds play. And so they're showing a replay there. So this is a situation where, again, if Arkansas wins, overall record 16-15 going to the SEC tournament. With Wednesday first round game, Arkansas is locked in either the 11 or 12 seed, and the difference there is if you're the 11 seed, you get to play Missouri, a team that you swept this year. If you're the 12 seed, you play Vandy again, a team that Arkansas has lost to 3 consecutive times. Big block by Makai Mitchell as Bama was driving the basket once again, ball out of bounds, ball back to Arkansas. Big defensive play there. Arkansas's been, when you look at Alabama as an elite offensive team, Arkansas's defense has done the job for the most part. And did a really good job early of keeping Bama out on the perimeter. Bama is one of those teams that likes to drive. You talk about paint touches or attacking the paint and rim, but they're not always on those drives looking to get all the way to the rim. They'll kick out guys offsetting, spotting up for three. It's how their offense works. Arkansas did a good job early on of defending that and running out to that big 15-point lead in the first half. With a team like Alabama playing on its home court, you knew there'd be runs, and the Tide would likely get back into this. Arkansas's tough drive and glass finish by Battle. He got fouled there, no call. Arkansas up 66-63. Defensive stop, missed shot by, I'm not sure who that was, either Griffin or Estrada. So we're not going to do play-by-play. We're just kind of giving some descriptors, as other platforms do during live game action. We're not going to give a true play-by-play here. Arkansas is on offense. So multiple times Sears has tried to defend Makai Mitchell down low. And Arkansas posting up Mitchell, trying to exploit that advantage, that size advantage. Mitchell has not finished some of those, but has had his moments in this game. He drew a lot of fouls here in the second half to get Arkansas on the bonus early. Drew a lot of fouls on the offensive end as Bama was having a hard time defending him and keeping him off the offensive glass. And that's been big because Arkansas has been really good at the foul line. Now I don't have an opportunity to look at stats as we go, so folks are going to have to help me out with that. But the last I checked, Arkansas was perfect at the foul line, which has been huge given how bad Arkansas started 1 of 10 shooting from the field in this second half after being really good in the first half. Arkansas cooled down, was shooting over 65%, just over 51% at halftime, and that's because Bama went on that run. Their defense got a little better. Bama's done a good job of protecting the rim, as have the Hogs. We go through it, Battle, up to 16 points now. He's got 4 field goals. He's been perfect at the line. Brazil had 10 points at halftime. That was his high water mark in a long, long time. I'm not sure when the last time he scored in double figures was, but I think it might have been, and I could be wrong about this. I'm not sure if he scored in double figures in league play. Maybe he has. And then prior to that, I'm not sure, but I know that he had the big 19 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks in that win over Duke at home, a quad one win over a top 10 ranked team. He followed up against Furman with a double figure scoring game. He got hurt late in that game, his ankle. He wasn't quite right for a long time, finished out non-conference play after that, and didn't play heavy minutes. And then in league play, we know that he's just been, not a big producer either on the glass typically or scoring the basketball. So I've got to go back and look at it because I don't have it memorized. But he led Arkansas at halftime with 10 points and he had 4 rebounds at the break. He's done some good things in this game. Obviously, I think he's outplayed Grant Nelson for the most part. 2 players that were talked about so much when Arkansas and Bama were bringing in Nelson and trying to get him. Was the thought that you'd have 2 versatile bookend stretch 4s at Arkansas if the Razorbacks can land him. And then you always wondered how these matchups would look. Arkansas and Bama only meeting once this year. It's the 5th consecutive season Arkansas's played on the road in Tuscaloosa, as we're still at timeout here. 5th consecutive season. And, when you really start thinking about that, only 2 times in those 5 years has Arkansas had a home and away where they actually hosted Bama in Fayetteville. So big advantage to Bama in the scheduling. It was like that for Tennessee, about the same measure until this year when Arkansas had a single game at home against Tennessee. That hadn't happened in 5 or 6 years. So when you look at the top part of the league, the SEC office, Eric Musselman complains about it sometimes, And I hear some people say it's kind of Bush League. I don't think it is. I think it's appropriate to point those things out. I'm with him on that. Yeah, it looked like Battle's been contacted a lot today on his drives, and he's not getting the benefit of the whistle as much. He's taken 7 free throws. Probably should have 11 or 12 free throw attempts to this point, based on what my eye tests tell me. But again, as Makai Mitchell steps to the free throw line, Arkansas's in the double bonus. So even if the Hogs miss the first, they'll get another opportunity. 66-63 with 3:46 to play. So now we're in those crunch time winning minutes. But again, 16-15 would be a great way to go in the SEC tournament if Arkansas can hold on and win. This reminds me of that Mississippi State road game, the Texas A&M road game. Arkansas's been better on the road of late. We know that. But if Arkansas wins this, not only 16-15 to finish it out, the Hogs then, 7-11 in league play. That's Matz's Musselman's first year at Arkansas. Last year, the Hogs were 8-10. So it's not going to be a winning league mark by any stretch, but you go into the SEC tournament having won 4 of your last 6 games, and the Hogs would actually have two-game winning streaks in league play. Right now, only 1. All of that coming in that last 6-game span. So there's something building here. And even if Arkansas loses, they're playing better, but still, it becomes a historically bad season. We're going to go through that. Grant Nelson hits a corner 3 after Makai Mitchell made both free throws. Well, are they calling that a 2? Not sure. Nelson up to a double-double now, 12 points and 10 rebounds. He also has 3 blocks, so that got him into double-figure scoring. Yeah, that was a 3. 68-65 Arkansas. And Arkansas isolates down on Nelson guarding Mitchell, which is good. Nelson's got the 4 fouls. Mitchell goes to a reverse layup that's good. Makai blocks a shot. Trevor Brazile with a rebound. Khalif Battle gets fouled in transition. All right, a little play-by-play there. We're not going to do much of that, but, beautiful work in the post. Mitchell drove left, then pivoted to his right to a reverse layup. So he schooled Nelson, then got a block on the other end. Brazile with the defensive rebound. Arkansas pushes in transition on offense. Battle gets fouled driving. So the Hogs up 70-65 with Battle at the free throw line. Arkansas is putting on an absolute free throw clinic. No matter what the numbers say at the end of this game, field goal shooting, 3-point shooting, rebounds, points in the paint, turnovers, Arkansas is going to be close in those. Win some, maybe lose some of that. But the free throw line, Arkansas has been much better. Battle perfect. Arkansas is going to hold a 7-point lead here with 2:40. 72-65 is the score. So again, if Arkansas holds on and finds a way to win this game, the Razorbacks have won, would have won 4 of their last 6 games. And that would include their second 2-game league winning streak. It doesn't sound like much, but when you've got to win 5 games in the SEC tournament in 5 days, you need to be on some kind of a roll. And Arkansas's got a chance. Reitzel has hit a couple of threes today before just hitting another one. So the leads went from 7-4 just like that. 72-68 is the score before Trevor Brazile adds to his point total with a nice drive over Nelson. Soft finish from about 4 feet away. So we're under 2 minutes to go, folks. A minute 51. Trevor Brazile's up to 12 points, by the way. Arkansas just got another blocked shot. Sears tried to drive to the basket. So the Hogs have 9 blocks today, Bama 6. I think Bama had all of those in the first half. All right, so Bama just had a possession where it missed a couple of 3-point shots. Arkansas secures a defensive rebound. I haven't talked about Al Ellis, another Razorback in double digits today. 10 points and just got a big defensive rebound. He's had 2 really solid games when we look at the last 2. He still has some turnovers you scratch your head about, but he's playing better of late. So Arkansas's milking clock up 6. So there was a missed three-pointer on Arkansas's offensive possession, late clock. Devo Davis is on the court. Late shot clock. Missed everything on a three attempt. Now, Trevor Brazil was in place and tried to save the ball in, but the shot clock expired. It was going to battle near the half court line, but shot clock expired. Bama's back on offense now. If you're joining me live here, HogvilleNET YouTube analysis, it's in-game analysis for now. Boy, Grant Nelson. So Trevor Brazil on Grant Nelson, that matchup. Advantage Nelson on that possession. Big 3-point make. Sears didn't drive all the way, got to the free throw line extended, saw Nelson open in the right corner. Brazil's, typically not the best guy when you're talking about closing out or staying connected sometimes. He's better in the paint if he's not being matador moved around and it's like weak side help on a block. And so Nelson shoots over Brazil for a three. So the lead is now 74-71 with just under a minute to go. This is where, Arkansas had a lead like this at Mississippi State, a 2-point lead going into the final minute. And the Bulldogs just outplayed Arkansas in the final minute and went on I think it was a 6-0. I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was a good enough run there down the stretch to pull that game out. I think it was a 4-point win, so a 6-0 run to close out that game. So we're going to keep an eye on this. Arkansas is going to have possession. Bama called a timeout after Nelson scored. And so we're going to, see what Arkansas does, but now it's a one possession game. That's a huge three because you cut it down not only were you down 6 if you're Bama, but you went from a 2-possession deficit to a 1-possession deficit. Had it been a 2-point shot, you're still down 4, which is a 2-possession deficit. Big shot. Again, Grant Nelson with a double-double. Brazil's had a nice game. Mentioned LLS, 10 points in this game. Got at least 4 rebounds. Does have some turnovers. Tremont Mark has been in foul trouble. Arkansas really, when it was rolling in that first half, things started to kind of decay a little bit when he had to go out with his second foul. And then he picked up his third foul early in the second half and went back to the bench. Grant Nelson, when he picked up his third foul, Bama left him in the game and he quickly picked up a fourth. Then he went out. That was with between 15 and 16 minutes ago. So both of those guys went and sat. Bama went on another little run. Musselman brought Mark back to the scores table before the 10-minute mark with those 4 fouls, with 3 fouls, and then Mark eventually picked up his fourth with about 10 minutes to go, a little over 10 minutes to go. So both players have been playing with heavy foul trouble there. Jeremiah Davenport's been huge in this game. Started 2-2 from 3 when you looked at his 3-point shooting attempts. Hit one big one in the first half when Arkansas was building that double-digit 15-point lead. Hit another one in the second half when Arkansas started 1 of 10 shooting from the field and Bama was cutting into the, getting closer. Davenport steps back and hits a 3, and then in that same spurt, he seems to score in spurts when he has more than a bucket or 2. He had a nice spinning drive and spin to a lefty finish off the glass layup, and that put Arkansas back up by 10. Arkansas actually extended back to a double-digit lead in the second half. We're 19 minutes in. Arkansas is trying to get to the finish line. We've done these end games for both Mississippi State and Texas A&M road games here on HogvilleNET YouTube. Well, I want to thank my sponsor, by the way, as we're coming out of the break, Jose's Bar and Grill in Tawnytown. I did my final in-season pregame show live at and on site at Jose's Bar and Grill in Tawnytown for the last home game against LSU in the midweek. A big Arkansas win by 11 points. It was Arkansas' second SEC win in the season by a double-digit margin after beating Mizzou by 15 at home. Not that long ago, the Hogs followed up with an 11-point win over LSU in the midweek. The Hogs' offense, when it was the loss at Kentucky, when it was the win over LSU, firing on all cylinders really good. Great start to this game. We'll see when the dust settles. Arkansas had a really poor shooting second half, so the numbers aren't going to look great. But when you build a 15-point lead with your offense still cooking and do just enough otherwise, great drive by Battle, dish to Makai, who misses a dunk. Bama on possession. Reitzel with a ball fake on the perimeter. Penetrated just inside the 3-point line. Step back three. That's good. It's all tied up at 74. Arkansas final possession. Again, execution in the final minutes. Arkansas gets the play at once, running through battle. Dunk opportunity for Makai Mitchell, who missed it. And now you've got another three for Bama. Arkansas's dribbling the clock out. Caliph Battle comes up short on an ISO 3 ball. We're tied up at 74 going to overtime. That was the final minute of this game in Mississippi State are really a microcosm of Arkansas's season. Arkansas had its share of blowout losses early in league play. Had its share of blowout losses early in league play. And you know, in these last 11 or so games, last 10 games, Arkansas's 5-5. There have been a couple of blowouts in there. When you looked at the road game at LSU, you looked at home against Tennessee, but mostly Arkansas, it's been these kind of games when you look at 5-5 in the last 10, when Arkansas loses, they just can't close games. They haven't been able to close games. And so even though the team's playing better, this is a microcosm of what these Arkansas Razorbacks are. Credit to Alabama, a team that's lost back-to-back games. About last week at this time, Bama was in a battle, first place, you know, and led this league for weeks at the top of the league standings, and was in a battle to win the conference title outright. Tennessee's got that, but five teams coming in today with 5 league losses. Bama, one of them, coming off back-to-back losses coming into this game. So the Tide aren't exactly at their best coming into this one. But going into overtime here, getting all the way back, we'll see what Arkansas does. Really, really poor finish for the Hogs in that final minute, but they're still alive. They didn't lose. You know, the final minute at Mississippi State, there was no extra game. So Bama really, those 2 threes here down the stretch by Nelson and then Reitzel. Makai Mitchell flew out on a closeout. Reitzel just stepped and dribbled inside of him, put a foot over the 3-point line, and then did a step back for his three. That's either his 4th or 5th three. I don't have stats in front of me. We know Sears has multiple in this game. I think at least 2. Nelson's hit at least 1. Makai Mitchell all smiles as we get ready to go and get set for the opening tip for overtime. 74 all. You know, again, this is, you know, I talked about what this means if Arkansas wins for the finishing with an overall winning record. And then if you lose your first round SEC game, you still finish above, you don't finish below 500. You would be then 500 at 16-16. So people are saying, well, it seems trivial. Well, I don't think it is. And you know, Eric Musselman would like to hold on to that mantle of never having a losing record and as a coach. And certainly it just looks better. And again, if you lose, it's the first losing final regular season record in 14 years. You got to go back to 09 and 10. John Pelfrey's 3rd season, that team went 14-8, 14-18 when the dust settled. Arkansas empty first possession here in overtime after winning the tip. But Arkansas would have its first 14 years first overall losing record at 15-16. And then the 6-12 mark would be the worst league finish for Arkansas in 15 years. You got to go back to Pelfrey's abysmal 2nd season when the Hogs went 2-14 to find as many 12 league losses. It'd be and though Musselman's had 3 losing SEC finishes in regular season in his 5 seasons, it would be obviously his worst SEC finish, because you have to go back 15 years to Pelfrey for one that was worse. Mike Anderson, I think his first Razorback team went 6-10, so the same amount of wins if Arkansas loses today, but 2 fewer losses. You played 16 league games back then. So, you know, those are historically bad measures for a team that either way, win or lose today, it's got no shot in an at-large bid no matter what it does in the SEC tournament. It has to win the SEC tournament to get an automatic bid. We're going to talk recruiting today, folks. We're going to get into that. We're going to let this game finish. You know, we got extended basketball here. Bama back at the line, and I've talked about how poor Bama's been at the free throw line today. We're seeing more of that here. Another one of two trip at the foul line. But Bama has its first lead in a long time. Did Bama ever lead in that? No, I don't think Bama's. I don't believe Bama's led in this game actually, because Arkansas jumped to a quick lead. Yeah, this must be Bama's first lead, 75-74. 4 minutes to go in overtime, and the Razorbacks have possession of the ball as I speak. Um, all right, so fortunes have changed. Battle with another drive and dish off to Makai Mitchell, who flushes this one home. That one was good. You would have loved that to have been the result in regulation because that game ends with an Arkansas victory. So the Hogs have a 1 point lead. (76-75) advantage Arkansas. They're showing a replay of that nice drive and dish by Battle. Bama misses a three. And it looked like to me that the ball was off a Bama player, or there was contact on Tremont Mark as the ball's going out of bounds. There's no call, and they award the ball to Bama. So maybe I'm mistaken. Looks like Reitzel's out of the game for a moment, collecting himself. He might have got hurt a little bit on that last possession. And we're still in the same possession because Bama was awarded a dead ball offensive team rebound. And this is what happens when you don't get the ball back. Man, threes have been huge for Bama. Walters strokes a catch and shoot on the left wing. Bama up two. The Tide are up two at 78-76 with just over 3 minutes to play in overtime. All right, so there'll be more free throws for Arkansas. I believe. I might have missed a miss, but I believe Arkansas has been perfect at the foul line in the second half. Maybe as good as 13 of 13, if better than that. Someone tell me, but Arkansas will be back at the line. You know, Tremont Mark was looking there. This has not been a big game for him again, playing with foul trouble, but he was driving in and got contacted and fouled. It's going to be important for Arkansas to stay perfect at the line here in overtime if it can, to maybe tie this game back up. So far, so good on that endeavor. Got to be a little bit careful here. I don't want to be giving too play by play. All right, so we're all knotted up with just over 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Bama's in possession. The game's tied at 78 all. Bama's up to 9 of 29 from three. The Hogs are 3 of 17. So if Alabama's able to win this game, it's going to be their bread and butter, which they're known for their three ball shooting. So Alabama, back-to-back possessions, has secured an offensive rebound and use that for second chance points. So big advantage there. Put back in the paint. So the lead's 2 for the Tide. We're down to 2.5 minutes. Arkansas's offensive possession. The lead is 2 again. It's 80-78. And then Arkansas has another offense possession where the Hogs drive. A guard drives in and dishes to Makai Mitchell. That was successful. And now we're knotted up again. It's 80 all with just over 2 minutes to go. We're getting down to the 2-minute mark. Arkansas's down 2 with 1:50 to go. It's 82-80 is the score. Bama has its biggest lead of the game right now with 1:38 to play, 84-80. Obviously, Arkansas's last offense possession didn't go very well. And, you know, the Tide in transition, Sears is so tough to deal with. He's approaching or close to his, probably exceeded now his scoring average. One of the better scorers, obviously the top of the leaderboard in the SEC and scoring at 20 plus. Very talented player. Got loose in transition. Arkansas had a couple of trailers there, and that didn't go well. Yeah, so the Arkansas Razorbacks now down four um, here in overtime. It's just been a Arkansas is 0-7 coming into this game against teams in the top half of the SEC with winning records. Teams with winning records in league play, Arkansas is 0-7. The margin of defeat prior to the Kentucky road loss was 17.7 points per game against teams with league winning records and that was anywhere, whether home or away. So Arkansas, the road loss at Kentucky, lost by 9. The Hogs are down 4 in overtime. Arkansas is better, but this isn't, what do they say? It's not horseshoes and hand grenades for a team that's not going anywhere in postseason. The goal then is to finish out the best you can in the regular season. Arkansas has played valiantly. This is not a team that's let go. Eric Musselman has rallied this team and drilled his rotations down, figured out what works best. He's opted really for an offensive kind of game when you go back these last several games, and there were times Arkansas maybe getting a little bit tougher and better defensively. There are still stretches of games where Arkansas's defense stands up, but overall, Arkansas's he recruited for offense in the offseason, better shooting, better free throw shooting. We've seen Arkansas be elite at the foul line. Not so much earlier in the year when they were struggling, but they're really starting to shoot free throws like much better even than you thought a team reasonably would do. Lately, and the offense has really been clicking for the most part. Today, the second half into the first half, the second half a bit of a letdown, but Arkansas still done some good things. When this is all said and done, win or lose, Arkansas is playing better basketball going to the SEC tournament. No team has ever won 5 games in 5 days in a league tournament to get the automatic bid. By the way, there is an in-state school with a heavy Arkansas Razorback flavor. When you look at an icon in Darrell Walker, the head coach, his second conference championship, by the way, since joining UALR, and the Trojans are in the Ohio Valley Conference finals tonight against co-champion Morehead State, a team that that Little Rock defeated on its home court. I was there and covered that game by a single point after building a big lead in that game, holding on to win by 1. Former Hog KK Robinson's first team All OVC this year. I thought he should have been Player of the Year, but he was first team. Mikel Mitchell, the former Hog, Makai's twin brother, has been really, really good. He was a second team All OVC selection. But the Trojans and Morehead State, they only played each other once in the regular season. That was in Little Rock at the Jack Stevens Center on the campus. It's a really nice arena. It holds over 5,000 fans. Little Rock's been bringing in the fans in their home finale on senior night. Over 4,000 fans, so nearly packed the joint. And that was against Tennessee Tech and John Pelfrey's team. Not very good team. And Little Rock blew the doors off there. But there is an in-state Division I school that's going to have a chance tonight to punch its ticket to the NCAA tournament. Okay, so Arkansas mentioned how great they've been at the foul line. We're just talking about poignant. Battle was back at the line. Arkansas is still perfect there, so you cut a 4-point deficit down to 2. Well, the score now with Bama in possession, it's 84-82. The score's starting to get up to more of a high-octane look. It's taken overtime to do some of that. But Arkansas is still in this game. So Arkansas is going to have to overcome now a 4-point deficit with possession of the ball. Here now we're under a minute. So we saw how Arkansas finished under a minute with a lead. So Battle's got the cape on once again. The Bama advantage is 2 points. So we're going to see how Arkansas finishes this. The Tide have possession. And I mentioned that we're under a minute. By the way, anybody curious, the score is 86-84. So without giving out any play-by-play, I will say Arkansas's got a 4-point deficit to deal with 25 seconds to go. All right. So without giving any play-by-play, I will say this. You know, we're under 15 seconds to go. Arkansas's disadvantage is 4 points. Um, there was a nice hustle play to win back a possession for the Hogs, and then a foul. So we'll see what happens here. Arkansas's down 4. The score is 88-84. We'll just let that play out. But 5 wins in 5 games, five wins in 5 days in the SEC tournament. That's never been done. But we know the only time Arkansas's program has ever won the SEC tournament in men's basketball was in 1999-2000. Joe Johnson was a freshman and helped that team. Brandon Dean, Teddy Gibson, T.J. Cleveland. So Arkansas's second half perfection at the free throw line ran a foul there. That's no longer. I think they were perfect up until that moment. So I can't, really give any play-by-play to tell you what happened. I will say that Arkansas is still down only one possession. It's a 3-point game, 88-85 now. Um, and there's still 12.8 seconds left. So basically the Tide can seal this game at the free throw line. We'll see what happens. But, Arkansas is staring at now that 15-16 finish. Again, it'll be the Hogs' first overall losing record in 14 years. 09, 2010, 14, and 18 was Pelfrey's team, his third season. That team went 7-9 in league play, but 14 and 18 in overall. Last time Arkansas would finish below 500 overall. The 6-12 mark in league play will be the worst mark Arkansas's had. If they lose, if the Hogs lose, worst mark that they would have finished with in 15 years. Pelfrey's second season, the Hogs went 2-14. So, so the Tide has led now by as many as 6 points here down the stretch. The advantage is only 3 right now with about 8 seconds left. Arkansas is not going away. The Razorbacks are not going away. Tremont Mark, who's been quiet, basically a pull-up 3 to cut that lead in half, that Bama lead in half. So we're looking at 90-87. There's some kind of review going on. I guess they were looking to see if it was a 3-point make. He launched himself way behind the 3-point line and landed inside of it. He was on the move, moving toward the basket when he did that. So they've now credited that as a. So they did. Okay, so they initially only gave it a 2, and so now it was a 5-point lead for Bama. I got turned around a little bit because I thought it was clear it was a 3 and that they were just reviewing it to make sure, and I wasn't paying attention to the score. 90-88. It's a 2-point deficit with 8.1 seconds left. This game's not over. We saw Bama find a way to get back in it in the final minute. Let's see if Arkansas can overcome a 2-possession deficit in the final minute and find a way to either get it to a second overtime or win it. But the inbounds play, full length of the court to go for Bama. So Arkansas is going to fall. So the game's over. There's no longer any play-by-play. Alabama, the 16th ranked Crimson Tide, 92. Arkansas, 88. Bama, I guess, stays in the fight for the 2 seed. There'll be some tiebreakers to be determined today as games play out. I think there were 4 or 5 teams with 5 losses. Arkansas was pressing on that inbounds play with 94 feet to go, and nobody was back. Arkansas sold out. Nobody was back. Bama threw ahead. Quick, easy pass after the inbound for a dunk. Um, so Sears ended up with 22 points. I said he was at or probably above his average. Not a very efficient game for him overall, but it's respectable. It was, but 92-88, 15 and 16 for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Finished in regular season 6 and 12 in league play. I mentioned I just went through it. I've done it multiple times. I've talked about it a lot. This has been a historically bad season for Arkansas. Several things can be true at once. Bad season. It's a bad season. Arkansas was a top 15 ranked team preseason with all kinds of expectations with it. What's a talented roster? There's no doubt about it. Zero doubt about that. But the Hogs have, started 1-6 in league play. It's typical they start slow in league play. That was bad. That was historically bad. You had to go back to that Pelfrey 2-14 season to find that kind of a start for the Hogs. The Hogs went 5-6 in their last 11 games. 5-6 in league play. So they improved. 0-8 against teams with winning records in league play. That's a fact. Most of those were blowout losses. Recently, on the road against Kentucky and on the road against Alabama, Arkansas was close. Go back to the Mississippi State game. I don't know exactly where Mississippi State's going to land in the final standings just yet, but Arkansas was close in that game. Arkansas won at A&M, a team with a losing league record coming into today. If A&M wins at Ole Miss on the road, then the Aggies, I guess, finish at 500. But Arkansas did not pick up a win against any team in this league with a winning league record. So this is not a good Arkansas team, but it's playing better, I guess. I mean, you lose at home to Vandy not that long ago, and you really were down double digits in that game. Game was stolen. I mean, I watched this game. I don't know if it was stolen. I thought I don't see it that way. I think for the most, Arkansas really benefited from the whistles early in the second half and got the 1-1 and made Bama pay. Got into it with over 13 minutes to go and made Bama pay for that. There might have been some plays here and there down the stretch. I had a couple of question marks myself, but on the road, you're not going to get every call. The home team usually gets more, but I didn't see anything egregious. Now I'm going to go back and watch this. I DVR'd it, and maybe I'll see something different. But I don't know that I feel like Arkansas got jobbed in this one. The refs swallow their whistles the last 5 minutes. There's some, I did feel like Battle is, I don't know how many free throws he ended up shooting, 9 or 11, somewhere in that range. It probably could have been up to 15. But, I don't know. It has to be really egregious and obvious and kind of continue for me to feel like one team or another gets jobbed. Now, certainly in the span of 4 or 5 minutes in a tight game, if whistles are just one-sided, you could say that. I just didn't see it that way, but I also was a little distracted doing this. We played good enough to win, right? But Arkansas is not a good team. Good teams win games like these. Good teams beat other good teams. Arkansas has one win on this season against a good team. One. That was against Duke in November. In the first ever ACC SEC challenge, Arkansas defeated a top 10 ranked team, a team that's been really good throughout the season in Duke. It wasn't a team that folded and you said, well, even that wasn't a good win. That was a quad one win against a quality opponent. That's it. When you're a good basketball team, don't hand me, well, they're playing better now. While that's true, it doesn't mean this is a good basketball team. It's not. It's not. Playing better is not the same as being good. Two things can be true at once. And I look at it, I go back to Vanderbilt not even 2 weeks ago in Fayetteville, where Arkansas is trying to build on a 2-game winning streak and going on the road and beating an Aggie team that's not, it's an average, it's a better than average. I don't know if I'd call it a good college team right now, fighting for its life on the bubble. We could have, discuss that and debate it. I don't see, Arkansas did sweep the Aggies, but you're coming off those back-to-back wins and you lay an egg against Vanderbilt, a team that was beating you by 13 or more points. I don't know what the lead was late. Arkansas had to make a hard push just to close within 3. And the Hogs had a chance at the buzzer. Mark missed a 3-pointer, and it wasn't way off. It wasn't a desperation. It was a good look. Vanderbilt decided not to foul. Arkansas had a nice play there. It missed, and you lose by 3. But Arkansas was soundly down for most of that. Most of that game Vanderbilt controlled after Arkansas took an early 10-point lead. Vanderbilt took control, and so I look at, you had that game, and then you went on the road and played well against Kentucky and lost. You came home and played an LSU team that comes into today below water in SEC play. Not a great team. You beat them by 11 at home. Arkansas had a great offensive game that night and did enough to maintain control and get a double-digit win. You went on the road today and played excellent against a team that was struggling. It's a Bama team that had 10 losses coming in. Really good in league play record-wise, but it's not Arkansas's had some favorable matchups when you look at, you played Missouri twice in this stretch of going 5-6 to finish things out. You got Georgia at home, one of the bottom feeders that's going to play a Wednesday game as well, whether as the 11 seed or the 12 seed. Well, I guess it's locked up now. Excuse me. I think Georgia's got the tiebreaker. So Georgia loses today, it won't matter. Arkansas is locked into that 12 seed. Will play Vanderbilt, the 13 seed. I believe that's true. I believe Arkansas had to win in needing that Georgia loss. So, Arkansas is, when you look at this run of winning 5 out of their last 6, who did you beat? You beat Missouri twice. You beat A&M on the road. I mean, it was a quad 1 win. You beat Georgia at home, and you beat LSU at home. It's not a good basketball team. It's playing better. I don't say things to pour things on. I don't sugarcoat things, and I don't bury what's true. When Eric Musselman deserves all the credit in the world for what he's been at Arkansas, and he's been really, really good up until this season. And really, when you went back to league play last year, Arkansas 8-10 in the 10th place finish. But Arkansas had a good non-conference. I always say that. And it was good enough. You're wondering, how does a team that goes 8-10 in its league and finish 10th make the NCAA tournament? Well, it's the full body of work. Arkansas had a good net resume. Arkansas had good wins in the non-conference and a good record there. And then the Hogs backed it up when it got in the SEC tournament. After losing their last 3 regular season games, the Hogs then won the opening game against an NCAA tournament team in Auburn. It was a close game, went down to the wire. Nick Smith Jr. hit the game winner with about 12 to 14 seconds left, proved to be the game winner. So Arkansas got off the mat there, lost in the next round to the Aggies. And then the Hogs in the NCAA tournament, 2-1, knocked off the defending national champs, the number 1 seed in their region in Kansas, and got to another Sweet 16. And so when you look at the full season as a whole, coming off back-to-back Elite Eights where you finish in the top 4 both of those years in the SEC, which is really good in a tough league, you can't look at that body of work and say Eric Musselman has done anything but move the needle in a sense to where Arkansas fans for decades have thought their program belongs, where Eddie Sutton, followed by Nolan Richardson, improving even what Sutton did, felt like it belonged. The top 5, anywhere from 5 to 15 in the country any given season based on what it could be. Eric Musselman helped restore some of that. Don't ever get me wrong, but I'm describing what's going on now. And I look, Arkansas's played 31 games, 15-16, 1 game below 500. When you go back to league play last year, the start of league play last year, you went 8-10, you went 1-1 in the SEC tournament. You did go 2-1 in the NCAA tournament to get to that Sweet 16. But when you add it all up, Arkansas's 2 games below 500 when you add up being 1 game below 500 at the start of league play last year, and then the 31 games this year. So my math, 31 games this year so far, 18 conference games last year, 2 games in the SEC tournament, that's 20, and then 3 more in the NCAA tournament because you lost in the Sweet 16 and eventual national champion UConn, right? So that's 23 games plus 31, that's 54 games, okay? Arkansas is 26-28 in the last 54 games. Those are also facts. And so, you can't completely separate what happened last year in league play from the overall success of that team. But what you can say is, aside from, how it managed NCAA tournament opportunities and postseason opportunities, when you're facing SEC teams, which is going to be the bulk of your schedule every year, Arkansas's not been very good the last 2 years there. There's been real slippage there. And this year, they're not going to have a postseason where they can correct that. Obviously, the SEC tournament is technically an opportunity to do that. Again, 5 wins in 5 days is what it's going to take. But does anybody believe Arkansas is capable of that? The Hogs have not been able to string together back-to-back wins in the SEC, except once against teams with losing league records. In the non-conference, Arkansas only had 2 3-game winning streaks, never even won 4 straight, and those were against mid-major opponents. Well, I mean, Arkansas, if it wins 5 games in 5 days and stamps that ticket again, it's happened once before in league. For Arkansas to win an SEC tournament, that was 4 wins in 4 days. Again, that Joe Johnson, Brandon Dean, Teddy Gibson, TJ Cleveland, that group, that team was not going to go to the NCAA tournament either, and won 4 in 4 days. This is a heavier task, 5 in 5 days. Arkansas has never done it. Arkansas gets Vanderbilt, a team that's won the last 3 games in the series, including twice in Bud Walton. And so Arkansas hasn't beaten Vanderbilt in years. They haven't beaten the Commodores in years. I think you have to go. So this season, so the first Elite Eight season was the last time Arkansas beat Vandy. Jerry Stack, I mean, that's a really bad SEC program. The worst rated when you look at net. Going to finish just, with, I guess the Commodores could win today, but 3 league wins. Actually a worse mark than Arkansas by half the amount of wins, yet one of those was against the Hogs. And so, Arkansas, I'm not sure is going to beat Vanderbilt in that first round game, but maybe Arkansas will. But there's nothing on the table here. And when you're 15 and 16 going to the SEC tournament, now just to finish 500, Arkansas needs to win 2 consecutive games, win the first 2 games at minimum. And if you lose the third, then you finish 17 and 17. That would be to get to 500. So even if Arkansas beats Vanderbilt, the Hogs, if they lose the next game on Thursday, still finish the season below 500 overall. Again, some of these optics may not matter to some folks. I think that every little thing you can do to say, hey, we turned a corner and we at least, weren't losers or weren't as bad losers when you look at our record. I think some of that stuff can help. And it does. Look, Arkansas has begun to figure some things out, but they're just not good enough to beat good teams. They just haven't. They've gotten closer to it. It doesn't mean anything until you start winning some of those games. In terms of when we look back on a season, in terms of in the moments, in these last few weeks, to see Arkansas improve, the alternative would have been an implosion. There were off the court stuff going on, players coming and going. Battle was indefinitely suspended. It never saw the light of day in terms of a public announcement. And there was a week between games. Arkansas had a bye in the midweek. He didn't play in the second half of that 21-point loss to LSU after something that happened at halftime. And so maybe that was his, time served. But he was reinstated later in that week, back on the practice court. Didn't practice initially early in the week. Devo Davis comes back. He'd missed 3 straight games. He was invited back in. So however that played out, back in the fold. And then Battle was reinstated, but Battle's gone off. And he's been a guy that's really, you start to see some of the stuff, his toughness more and more shown through, not just the ability to score, which we all knew coming in he'd have that. No one expected him to have these crazy numbers he's had lately. It's been a welcome sight. I don't know that anyone expected it to be at that level, but there's been some other toughness things I've noticed with him. He's getting tough rebounds at times. He had 3 blocks in Arkansas's win over LSU. Had eight rebounds, I think, in either that game or the game before. I think at Kentucky, he finished with 8 rebounds in that one. So showing some toughness. Ellis moved the needle a little bit. He's out of eligibility. We'll see what happens with Caleb Battle. I'm not convinced he's returning to Arkansas. I'm not convinced that Eric Melsman is. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. I have said consistently for weeks after it became public and was out there and being reported that he's looking elsewhere. Well, in fact, I'd been hearing that for a while. I sat on it for weeks, early in the year, when I'm getting this stuff. And I'm still a slight lean that he won't be back, only because if I believe, and I've had enough sources where I believe it, and they're not the same ones sharing circular information, that's important to me, is to figure that stuff out. I don't report rumors. I really work to find out what's accurate. But if someone's looking for that long period of time and the coaching carousel is going to crank up more and more and more, he's on no hot seat. He's not being pressured to leave. He's not going to grab something that's not enticing to him or something that he wants. I doubt that he will. I mean, we'll see what it is. Some of the schools that I've heard he's had feelers out for, to me, are not lateral moves. And he makes really good money in Arkansas. He's one of the best paid coaches in college basketball. So to me, there are reasons why I'm only a slight lean that he'll leave. Only because I feel like he has been putting the feelers out for a while. That something, maybe there's at least one that's something he would take and then would go. But I don't know that he's going to leave, and I'm not predicting he's going to leave. I'm talking to people that say, oh, 70, 85% he's gone. I won't go there. There's too many other factors at play, and he's not on a hot seat. Arkansas's NIL has come into question. It's been an issue. I know that's something that resonates in this coaching thing. But guess what? Arkansas might be getting that turned around. I don't have any specifics on that, but I've been hearing a couple of things lately that maybe, and nothing specific, just kind of generality. So I want to hear more. I want to be able to confirm some things. But that could play into this. Could Arkansas look at raising Muss? Not wanting to be in a job situation, a head coach search situation. Always possible. I've been told by a couple of folks that's really not likely, but I don't know that I'm sold on that. Dynamics change. When you're athletic director, unless you need to make a coaching change, you don't want to have one. And Eric Musselman's been highly successful at Arkansas. The SEC results lately haven't been good, but the overall picture, he's been really good. He's been Arkansas's best coach since the Nolan Richardson days. And that's not one of those things where you say, well, what does that really mean? Because there's been some other coaches that weren't good at all. Mike Anderson's not among those, by the way. He was a good coach at Arkansas. Sometimes verge between good and really good, but just not enough. And he was not up to the task, in my opinion, of restoring Arkansas to what Eric Musselman has done up until this season. And so Muss is on no hot seat. He's not going to be pressured to leave. But again, I'm not at a point where I've got information to think he's probably coming back. But I've always been a slight lean anyway. So this isn't like, and look, if he comes back, the messaging will be that the talk about him looking elsewhere and had been for a while, they're going to blow that off and say it's nonsense. It was never true. That's going to be the message. They have to do that. Boosters, fan base, recruits, families, and players on the current team that they might be. I mean, they'll never acknowledge it, and it'll be the opposite. I'm just telling you, I'm firm in this. And again, the other part of this is, well, is it a move to get that out there for leverage? I've heard it too many ways that it's not. I mean, it could work out that way. It could work out. Let's say that there are a couple of options that he's not as hyped about taking, and it's marginal. Then you maybe leverage something and they keep you. So it might work out where there's a leverage opportunity, or it plays out that way. I'm just telling you, we'll see what happens. And things constantly change. Things are fluid. So other things coming into play. I mean, again, when you have the kind of season Arkansas's had, save for playing a little better, I guess, late, the facts are what they are. And I think sometimes that can change how you look in a job search, because there are other coaches who may be trending up this year. So sometimes it's about timing. Musselman's overall body of work suggests he's a strong coach. It suggests that he should not be on any kind of hot seat, period. No one said that. And so that's why I also still slightly lean, because I think there may be, when some of these dominoes start to fall, some opportunities that he'd jump at. So, and if it happens, I'm going to go into a real historical perspective of my bird's eye view on things that have gone on all 5 years. And I think folks, if it gets to that point, there may be some eye-opening stuff there, and things you just really never thought was a million miles away from being true. So we'll see where that goes. I'm not going to give any. Texas OU, the two new incoming SEC programs playing right now. Oklahoma, we know, took Arkansas to the woodshed in Tulsa this year, back in December. But Texas is up 5 at home, 31-26. Both of these teams, 8 and 9 in the Big 12, a really good conference. We know that. Middling teams there. Um, Man, all right, so I'm going to turn this off so I can focus. I'm going to talk a little bit of recruiting now. I've kind of gone through some of the stuff the way I see it with Arkansas's coaching situation. I do think if Musselman stays, there's going to be a significant departure off the staff. But we'll see. Again, you know, especially this time of year, things can change on a dime. I think it's interesting though that there's been a consistent feelers out for other opportunities consistent. I mean, we're not talking about recent, we're talking about consistent. And really, you had to wait till this time of year, February going into March, where I really started talking about it. I didn't bring it up early in the year. I stayed out of that. And it became public and was circulating out there. And so, instead of just letting rumors be rumors, and the perception of how maybe fans are seeing it, I wanted to share a little bit of what I've learned, and I don't report rumors. I'm really working from a basis of what I believe to be sound source information and multiple, and a lot of these sources. Again, I will explain this before I get into recruiting. They're not connected. They're coming from different places, so it's not the same circular stuff where you're hearing it 10 times, but it's really the same thing, and it's just being regurgitated by different people. So, I try to do a really good job of sorting through that stuff so I don't get caught in that, because I want to be responsible about this stuff. All right, and if Eric Musselman stays there, he's going to go like, "Whoa, you were wrong." No, I'm not. I'm saying very slightly, and I don't know how it's going to play out. There's other factors I've described them, and some of that again is opportunities. What real jobs can he get once the dominoes really start to fall as the season ends? What is there that he wants? What is there that he doesn't? I mean, so I don't know what he's going to do. So anyway, let's get into recruiting a little bit. I put a story out. It's on the HogvilleNET recruiting article. Put it out last night. It's also on Pig Trail Nation KNWA's website. But Cameron Hunter, a very talented guard at Central Arkansas, University of Central Arkansas, UCA, we'll call it. Back in the portal. He was in the portal this time last year, took an unofficial visit to Arkansas, ended up committing to Butler. Missouri was in the mix for him, a couple other, St. Louis, Loyola, Chicago. Those were his final five. They ended up committing to Butler and then backed out of that commitment and remained at UCA. There was a close scrimmage in October with UCA and Ouachita Baptist, and Hunter injured his foot. And so he, it was a process for him to get through that. He's telling me now that he's 100% healthy and has been since, for a few weeks. UCA's had a coaching change. Anthony Boone is out. There is a former Hog assistant that I know is lined up or already maybe has interviewed for that job. Been asked not to say the name. People can figure that out. I think it's actually someone predicted it or put it out on Twitter a few days ago. I haven't circled back to look at it. So you can go find that. But I did find out before that, and just haven't talked about it, that he'd be interviewing among some other folks. And there may be some interest there. I've had other assistants call me about it from around Division I. But anyway, Cameron Hunter's back in the portal. Did not play this year. He still has 2 years remaining. A two-time All-Atlantic Sun conference player. All freshman team as a freshman, I guess 3 seasons ago. Then third team All-League. Led UCA in scoring season before last. So he set out this year. Still 2 years of eligibility remaining. We've been talking this week. I have this article out quoting him about his interest in Arkansas. And he took that unofficial visit about this time last year, late March. And so, we'll see what happens if Arkansas reaches out to him. He just put his paperwork in late yesterday afternoon for the portal. The portal technically doesn't open for most players until March 18th, the day after Selection Sunday. But I guess there's a loophole. This is what Hunter's telling me, and I know there's some other players in it. If there's already a coaching change and when certain things happen, maybe if they're graduates already, but they can go ahead and enlist their name in a portal situation now. He's put the paperwork in. Sometimes that process happens very quickly when it's official, sometimes not that fast. And he did it coming into a weekend late in the day. So we'll see when he's officially in the portal. I know it's been reported by some national guys that he's in there, but he literally just got the paperwork in. We'll see when it's official. Maybe it is now. But either way, he hasn't heard from anybody yet. But he has interest in Arkansas. He told me that he has a high level. his wording was, who wouldn't want to go up to the Hill and play for their home state team or have interest in that anyway. He's wide open to a lot of possibilities and opportunities. He's not just zeroed in on Arkansas, but we'll see. Eric Melsman, I know, and the staff really liked him. They brought it. That's why they brought him in for an unofficial visit last year. Arkansas moved pretty quickly in the portal shortly after Hunter's visit when he didn't commit or have a commitment opportunity, whichever case may be. Time moved pretty quickly. And the Razorbacks got Keon Minifield Jr. was the first off the board in a guard-heavy 5-player haul when you looked at a 2-week span starting in early April through mid-April. And so, like I said, Hunter committed to Butler and then backed out of that, went back to UCA and didn't play this year. So we'll see if he gets a visit. He's interested. So if for those clamoring for portal information, there's a piece there. Another really good player from Northwest Arkansas, Tucker Anderson. He's got is it Tucker Anderson or Harrison Tucker? He's got two of those names that I get a flip flop in my head a lot. But a big wing, 6'8" wing that's had a good freshman season with UCA, and we'll see what happens with him in portal. But I know there's a lot of D1 assistants, some high majors that are already asking about what kind of player he is, and so there's already some interest in him from higher levels, and so we'll see what happens at UCA with that. I mentioned Darrell Walker and the job he's done at Little Rock, 21-11. The Trojans tonight play Morehead State. The team, there was a 3-way tie for the Ohio Valley Conference Championship. Little Rock held all the tiebreakers by virtue of its 1-0 record against Morehead State and its 1-1 split with Tennessee Martin. But those two teams, the top two seeds now, face off tonight. I think it's at 7 o'clock. It might be on ESPN2. It's for sure will be on ESPN Plus, but maybe there's a way it's on ESPN2. It was an either or deal coming into today. I don't know if it's been settled yet. But at least one team from the in-state Division I school has a chance at the dance. Little Rock's got to win tonight. I think it's a team that's won 10 consecutive games and 13 of its last 14. I've covered several of their games this year here in Little Rock in their home arena. It's been a really good season and a team that, you like to see this because KK Robinson, former Hog, never really got an opportunity at Arkansas. I've packaged it that way when I explain it. Someday I'll explain that more, and people can decide if they want to agree or not. That's my take on it. And he's a guy that, has dealt with injuries, and he's been really good for the Little Rock Trojans. Just a stat sheet guy, and the good stats, hustle stats. He blocks shots. He rebounds. He dishes out assists. He gets steals, and he scores. Mikael Mitchell, former Hog just last year, helped Arkansas last year in that Sweet 16 run, was a good player and helped Arkansas during the course of that season. Had a good year. Both of them are all league selections. And then, of course, Darrell Walker's an icon, a former Razorback star, an All-American, a lottery pick level guy when he went into the draft with the New York Knicks, was an All-NBA rookie, All-League, was a very good NBA player for a decade or so, was an NBA head coach at a couple of stops, was a WNBA coach at a couple of stops. And those had connections not only to Isaiah Thomas when he started his head coaching career with the Toronto Raptors, fledgling team that was brought into the NBA, coached the Washington Wizards via his relationships with Michael Jordan. He got an NBA championship ring playing with Jordan in Chicago. This is one of Arkansas's all-time greats from back in the 80s, an icon in the program. You don't hear Darrell Walker's name mentioned enough, but he is a good coach. Again, 2 conference championships. The one season, was the COVID year, and so no NCAA tournament. That the postseason, it was then the Trojans were in the Sun Belt. No Sun Belt postseason tournament that went through. So, you're talking about a situation where this would be the first opportunity since he's been there for the Trojans to make it to the NCAA tournament. All right, we've talked a little bit of recruiting. I'll just mention I've been covering the state finals down in Hot Springs the last couple of days. JJ Deshaun Andrews, 6'6" wing, class of 2026, ESPN 5-star, got the MVP of Little Rock Christian's repeat in the 4A state boys title game, knocked off Farmington, a good Farmington team with a great player in Lane Taylor. Too much athleticism, length, and skill for Little Rock Christian, and that went over Farmington. But 20 points, 8 rebounds, and some other good stats in that game for Andrews, who got MVP of that one. And then Terrion Burgess, 5A Boys State, lost to defending champ Pine Bluff. Both of those teams play in the 5A South. Benton went 16-0 in that league, swept Pine Bluff in the regular season. I thought there were awful calls in that game. Credit to the Zebras for finding a way to win, but I thought there was lopsided calls. Really hurt Benton in that one. You hate to see that, and you don't hang that on the players. It was bad officiating. It was really lopsided one way. Benton had a 14-point lead. Burgess did get in foul trouble. Pine Bluff was able to close within 2 at halftime of that game. And it was kind of back and forth most of the second half. But Burgess, 27 points, very efficient game for him. 9 of 15 from the field, made both of his 3-point attempts. 7 of 9 at the foul line, 9 rebounds, 1 short of yet another double-double. Had a couple of blocks, a steal in there. But a really, really good game for Terrion Burgess, who continues to prove why he's a coveted high major guy, ranked number 37 by 247 Sports, a 4-star. I think he should be closer to 5-star status. But I really love his game. But, these are players. There were other high major schools in the SEC that had a presence at these games with assistant coaches, not Arkansas. But, looking at it, you understand why some of these SEC teams trying to finish up their season the right way, sending coaches in to make these kids a priority, because these are high-level guys in Arkansas. One of the assistant coaches who was there told me, he goes, you know how good it is in Arkansas basketball on the high school level, but I see a lot of different states because of the job of recruiting. And he goes, and just 2 of the SEC states, just 2 neighboring, one is immediately adjacent to Arkansas, and then another on the other side of that state, 2 states over from Arkansas. He said the players in those 2 states combined aren't even close to what Arkansas has. And I hear a lot of that. I hear it not only just from in the Southeast, but other parts of the country, where sometimes there's a narrative or a perspective that some of these places are hotbeds, and coaches tell me all the time when they come down and really recruit Arkansas, they're like, man, the basketball's better here. It's why I cover basketball in Arkansas. Football coverage saturated, gets plenty. I think this is a basketball state based on the culture of basketball in the state, how it produces high-level guys. And Arkansas has been really good in basketball, mostly off in-state guys, which brings home the point I'm making. And so I think it is a basketball state in a football-minded fan base because of the SEC and some of that stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. I love football too, but I do think it's a basketball state. That's why I cover it. But when I get this feedback constantly, it backs up what I already know. Because in the spring and summer, I'm on the grassroots circuit, and I'm seeing players from all over the country. I'm like, Arkansas is still a little bit undersold in how some of these recruiting analysts put things out on a national level, because they're not focused in on the Arkansas kids like I am. I can start there and watch all these other guys rated higher or maybe equivocally, and I look at evenly, and I look at them match up. I'm like, sometimes these Arkansas kids are slept on. And I think the analysts have done a better job over these last few years of recognizing it. But it's a deep state again of talent. And again, you look at the high school championship games just with Burgess, who I thought again was outstanding. His game is just continues to improve. He's got grit, he's got competitiveness, he's got an edge, but he's kind of a stoic guy, so you don't really see it in his body language and his face. It's just the way he plays. And then Andrews, another guy he's already 6'6", a sophomore, powerfully built, athletic, quick with his frame. I just love both of those players. You understand why Arkansas and so many others snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Muss wants to be the head coach at Arizona. Wouldn't be the first time that would be true. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. An hour and 15 minutes in. I got other stuff I'm going to get to. It's 2 o'clock. Appreciate you joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live, in-game and post-game analysis. I did my best not to really provide any play-by-play, broadcast rights. So I don't show any of the game. You don't hear any audio, no radio, no TV. But I try to deliver some messaging on it and kind of go through what's important. Arkansas Razorbacks lose in overtime at Alabama as the Hog. I think what was the final score? 92-88. I believe that's right. As Arkansas finishes 15-16 on the season overall, 6-12 in SEC play. Again, you got to go back a decade and a half for both of those levels of losing. Even though the team's playing better right now, that's at least something to feel, I guess, positive about going into the SEC tournament. Arkansas will tip, I think, first as the 12 seed against the 13 seeded Vanderbilt Commodores on Wednesday in the SEC tournament in Nashville. Arkansas's got to win 5 games in 5 days to get the automatic bid for an NCAA tournament. I see no future for an NIT for this team. I guess there's a possible path to that if you won enough of these games and maybe got to the semis or the finals. I doubt it. But either way, Arkansas's, next game could be its last game in 2023-24, a season that started promising when you looked at preseason expectations, rankings, and what we thought the recruiting was, what we thought this roster looked like. Certainly, there's talent there. And for folks that don't want it to end because Arkansas is playing better, I can understand that. I can understand that. And maybe the Razorbacks, start Wednesday and extend their season day by day. We'll see what happens, and we'll certainly come on, if not with a pregame. We'll try to do an in-game and post-game, at minimum a post-game on Wednesday after when Arkansas meets Vanderbilt. But until then, I'll see you then.